lunch, we have short fireside chat on revolutionizing BPO operations with AI, ML, and analytics, opportunities and impact. Please join me in welcoming the moderator, Anirban Banerjee, Global Head Business Advocacy and Excellence, Tata Consultancy Services. Please put your hands together for the moderator. Anirban is a BE in Computer Science, PGDM, BM, ICWA and MPhil in Economics with all over experience of 20 years in service delivery excellence, business acquisition, banking operations and operational risk. Anirban is head of risk, service delivery excellence at TCS, BFSI, CBO, Infra Service and BFSI BPS. Directly responsible for service delivery excellence and risk management, transition governance, business vigilance and fraud management. Also risk management implementation at BFSI BG globally. Further, I would like to introduce our following panelists. Gopal Parasnis, Vice President, Global Head for Digital Transformation, BFSI at Tech Mahindra. Umesh Poojary, Vice President, Accenture. Subham, Bhowmick, Data Science and Analytics Leader in BFSI, JP Morgan Chase, ex-Capgemini. Please put your hands together for moderator and all the panelists. Thank you.
Between you and your lunch, the most difficult thing, right? Isn't it? Yeah. Hunger is the biggest problem everybody is solving since mankind started evolving. And Hasit and Kunal made it very difficult with their chat, and they said that AI is 1,000+ years, and Kunal said it's a power of 2 on that, okay? And it's very difficult. So I have a very, very esteemed panel with me, so I'll pose all the difficult questions to them, and I'll be very happy. But having said that, one thing I took from that session was that artificial intelligence is something where misogyny is a very, very small line we have to draw. So I'll not venture there. The other thing which I believed is that, whether it is machine learning or whether it is human learning, the entire gamut of operations workspace has changed considerably, whether we look at it as a business process operations or IT operations, because I have the privilege of looking at both, and I see there's a huge difference to how it is working in today's world or in 2024, and come 2025, I don't know whether in Confex 2025, they will have a moderator which will be an AI, I hope, or a Gen AI moderator. They'll not require a human moderator to do any of the work which Kunal and Anirban is doing today, because they will be able to understand the sentiment which Hasit or an Ivani will bring to the table, and they will actually pose them very difficult question, and they'll actually give them a mathematically computed question which will have to be equated appropriately to give you an answer. And today's consumer, because whether it is the operations industry, and Subham was asking a lot about what you do and how you do, I look at the consumers also wants to know whether they're interacting with us. And that's where, Subham, I start with you, because you post a lot of questions to me. That is the consumer really believing that there is an AI, ML, analytics, which is transforming the operations workspace? How do you look at it?
Hello. Yeah. So I think that to extending to what you were saying, every company has their own operations which are built for their success and is different. And I can assume that, even though I've not worked in all the companies, but the way AI, ML, and analytics would be used to create successful transformations is, you cannot leave out analytics and think Gen AI. You cannot leave out analytics and think ML. It actually all goes well together, because analytics is going to give you an understanding of where in your processes there are going to be places that you need to optimize, and what are the potential based ways to plug it. And there you will have to decide whether you want to use Gen AI or ML to actually solve for it. I did a quick tour of what was on display, and that kind of summarizes a lot of the commonly heard, products that are out there, very competitive, very nice. I think the how part becomes very important because you now have a lot of options off the shelf. You can engage different companies who have built and done the hard work for you, and you can now quickly add that solution into your company's operations. But you truly need to find out what is the problem, and that really goes deeper into your business area. Just lifting some AI ML solution because it looks cool would actually fail as a project. To give you one example, in my experience, there has been a case where we have taken up an analytic solution, an ML solution, which was basically transcribing calls to texts, right? And the way it was done was not well thought out. They thought it was the next big thing and we should do it. But what we really wanted is we have an army of analysts who wanted access to the text data. And that was not accessible to us. They wanted us, what they were giving us was sentiment analysis of each call, for example, instead of the actual text also. So that kind of project went into a dead position after that. So that's an example of what really would make a difference versus what is available in the market. So that bridging the gap is where the opportunity is, but a lot of the products do exist in the market right now.
Fantastic. Thanks. And since you touched on sentiment, I'll go to Umesh directly. Umesh, there's a lot of talk around sentiment analysis and how this is going to really change the game, because I heard in the previous session also that sentiment analysis is going to be a game changer, right? And we saw a lot of speakers talk about sentiment analysis is no more a separate entity; it is part of it. So how do you look at it going to pan out in the the whole game of AI ML in operations with sentiment analysis playing the part?
I think I'll probably take a step back, right? When we talk about operations, I think erstwhile, when you talk about some of these things, right, the traditional method, so to speak, has always been looking at probably, customer verbatim, looking at, QA and things like that. But having said that, that's only a sample, so to speak. And as a result, when you talk about, when you combine that and when you look at the customer expectations, because as with all of us, right, all of our expectations as a service receiver increases over a period of time. We don't just, we don't just say that, okay, I got this level of service today, I'm happy with this, or I'm happy with this going down. The expectation increases by the day. And as a result, when you look at some of those things, sentiment analysis in terms of, how we use this technology to look at the entire population really, brings value, so to speak. And these days, everyone is interested in value. And, I think if you look at the erstwhile method, you'll probably be able to look at maybe a couple of percentages here and there of the volume that any business manages, so to speak. But when you look at sentiment analysis, it's the population that you look at, and then you're able to have something, I like to call it as, precision targeting in terms of what the business requirements are and how you can upscale the level of service that you provide to your clientele, so to speak. I think that's where it makes a massive difference, and that's where it brings the value in, because whenever anyone comes with a business proposition, some of the things are very, stated. But these days, it's not about the stated needs. It's about the unstated needs. And sentiment analysis with the technology, with AI, Gen AI, I think can bring so much to the table that A is you can go back to your clientele and tell them what exactly is not working at their end while you try and fix the operations in terms of delivering, a better service day on day.
Wonderful point, Umesh. Now, since you talked about unstated program or unstated expectation of the people, I come to Gopal from that perspective, Umesh, quickly, that, we were all talking about various things, right? Whether artificial intelligence will work, not work, artificial intelligence is there for 1,000 years or whatever. The more important thing is modernization or transformation linked to cloud computing? And is cloud computing the real modernization solution for operations industry. How do you look at it? I give you a paradox to solve.
Yeah. No, thanks. See, I think before I go to that question, can I just add one example in my real life that I have seen in the sentiment analysis, right? So this was a few years back, and we did this project with one of the largest shoemaker company in the world. I can't tell the name of the company, but you can guess it when I tell the stories. And the whole idea that they were launching actually a new model of shoe. And we did, not just the IT work for them, but a lot of work on the campaign, advertising, marketing, and all that as a part of the launch and pre-launch processes, right? And then, subsequently, that particular company, they launched the product. They had certain expectations from the product, and within 3 weeks, it bombed. It bombed big time. And they realized that they are not able to reach 50% of what they thought they would reach. And they were all in the huddle as to why this happened and how we can recover from this. And then, they asked us how best you can help. Luckily, we were, knowing a little bit of technology on the sentiment analysis. And so we said that, okay, let's give a try and let's see what exactly people are saying in all the digital exhaust that is created on the social media, on everywhere, right? And then we analyzed that data. Honestly, the job of analysis with the technology that we have is not very complex. And then we realized very simple fact. See, the shoe was launched in 2 colors. The model was launched in 2 colors. One was black and another was green. And the feedback for the black colored model was great. It was all positive. And the green colored model sucked. So basically, and everywhere in the advertising, billboards, digital media, everywhere they had used actually the green model and not the black model. So people were put off by that and the model was not picking up. Simple change in terms of advertising strategy, not so simple also, and then that saved the day for the company. So that is the power that it can unleash actually. Now, I have probably taken a lot of time on that example, but let me go back to your question on the cloud.
I hope everybody has identified that wrong footwear company whom we wrongly always pronounce as a name.
It was in Europe, I can give you.
You always pronounce it wrong, so
yeah.
No blame on him.
Yeah. Anyway, now I'll come to your question on cloud. Now, I know that this gathering is mainly BPO, and honestly, I don't come from BPO background. I come from technology background. And I see cloud, and my colleague and good friend Hasit, he was my boss by the way, is here. So basically, cloud is not just a piece of technology, a toy at hand, right? It's actually an entire ecosystem that facilitates innovation. I mean, for example, it's not just about the scalability and elasticity that you get in terms of the processing power, compute power, and data power, but it can also provide a lot of heterogeneous communication through the API layer that you can build on cloud. So all your interoperable systems can talk to each other. You can collaborate digitally a lot better. You can do a lot of real-time processing because of the scaling up and down. Entire AI stack is actually possible because of cloud and the computing power innovation that has happened, right? I mean, if you look at it, the deep learning and neural network algorithms are not really necessarily new things. They were developed long time back. And people knew that, if you can have enough processing power, you can use the data and make decisions based on the data patterns and the models. So it was not new, but what made it possible was actually the cloud computing. And that's where I think cloud is very integral to any kind of transformation. I know I have taken a lot of time, but I'll just give one very quick example of the project that I did actually personally some time back with a Canadian bank. Again, I'm not going into the name of the bank, but we actually transformed their entire mortgage platform. Okay, and they had a very old archaic mortgage platform, legacy and all that. We modernized it to cloud. And the way it happened was, we could actually very easily integrate with the additional services. It was home buying experience. It was not just mortgage for us. And in fact, the name of the platform is also called eHome, and now you can Google and find the name of the company. So this eHome platform really, it provided the ability to integrate all the allied services. For example, if a home buyer wants to go for renovation, what does he have to do? If he needs some legal services, contractual services, we could offer that through our partners, obviously. I mean, through banks partners, obviously. That was possible because of the cloud. Then the entire processing was automated or semi-automated, I would say. And the application process, which used to take some 3-4 days for approval, was happening within a day's time. So you can imagine the difference that it made to the clients in terms of the satisfaction, right? And the application processing, it's very cumbersome and complex process for applications for any mortgage business. That could happen in 20 minutes flat, which was taking 3-4 hours for the client, and it could happen in 20 minutes. So these are the kind of transformations that we could deliver, and everything was built on the cloud stack with the nice other elements of technology built in.
So Gopal, time is not a problem as long as you solve this problem for us, and I hope you solved the problem for us. With the royalness in which you answered, we know the name of the bank you've looked at. Yeah, so from an overall experience perspective, I'll come back to Subham again. There are so much of talk, and it's now you have to be really nimble in your answer because we want to, again, save time for all of us here. Machine learning algorithms are changing big time, right? And if you look at the entire BFSI space, the machine learning algorithms are changing big time, and hopefully all our partners of this program and sponsors have done some machine learning today that by the time people go back in the evening, they will have a capsule to carry with them in terms of what are the solutions they have to their real life problems. I'm sure Hasid is smiling at me. He has at least 10 problems, 10 business cases or use cases he wanted to solve today. So throughout the day, whatever is happening, they will give us those 10 tablets or 10 capsules to carry back. So what do you think from a machine learning perspective or machine algorithm perspective, if you can give us some examples in a very quick time, Subham?
Yeah. To connect to my previous point that I was making, the examples that I'll give is not something that you get off the shelf. So a real life example here, I'll give a combination of analytics, ML, and strategy, which needs to go hand in hand for it to actually move the needle on the business. So risk, credit card collections, you don't pay on time, next day your name goes into the list of the past due. So now that's come strategy. There will be a risk strategy basis the amount due, basis your probability of default, and that strategy will define probably how soon they will connect with you and what way they'll connect with you. So now very simple analytics that we did, sloppy pairs. You just forgot to pay the bill, that's all. That's all. So if anybody is from operations and collections here, collections is one of the highest cost in terms of operations. If you see the BFSI departments compared to customer service and others, these are highly specialized. When you call a customer, 1% of the customers are actually going to pick up your call, which is a very hard, cold calling kind of business that you're in. So, so don't call the people whom you don't need to, right? So very simple analytics, you can figure out sloppy pairs, right? People who are affluent, people have the money, there is very good probability, very good risk scores, everything else. Just give them time. Just give them wait 30 days for them to fix it, or drop them a message. Use channels that do not require human touch and it's less cost. 2, machine learning. People do probability of default, but there are so some things that I have seen happen, and I will not take more specific details, but I will tell you the implementation. So best day to call a customer and best time of day to call a customer. Add to that the best channel to contact customer. If you put this together, these are machine learning algorithms, omni-channel optimization, right? Across SMS, notifications, phone call, you have these options. What is the probability of a customer picking up the call? That's your right party contact rate. That is what you're trying to optimize. And your machine learning model will tell you at what day of time the customer is highly probable to answer your call or respond to your message in which platform. If you're able to solve for that, and I took a look around the display today, I think nobody has that. But if you are able to solve that, that's a very hard problem that you can solve. Everybody wants that in the BFSI system. So there's one example of how it would work. And after that, it's all about strategy, right? You know when a customer is going to pick up your call. You know when a customer is going to respond to SMS. You know, rather not know the probability. And you know what's the probability of that email. Now the strategy is, what do? Do you wait for that moment to call the customer, knowing that it will cost you more? Or do you send an email knowing that maybe it's lower in probability, but it's like nothing in cost? So that's the strategy, and that's very, very important, that you need to keep track of different strategies and then keep at devising new strategies, and then you'll get a good result. But just deploying a machine learning model, and that's not going to solve it either.
So I just hope your strategies are all done at a place where the end customer is saving some money, right? That sloppy customer is not really penalized for his sloppiness. Now, Umesh, coming back to you, you talked about the sentiment. If you look at the conversational AI, and I heard one of our speakers spoke about conversational AI in parallel to the operator or the associate delivering services to the customer. How do you look at that piece, and how do you see this really taking up the next space or the next big thing happening in the operations, that the conversational AI will keep on helping, and next year will not require us, a conversational AI will replace us?
I think there's been enough and more debate about that, right? So I'll not dwell too much on that. But I think the fundamental problem these days is obviously the cost, right? And in terms, every time a clientele comes to you, you have a client, there is always the negotiation from a cost perspective. Now, what drives these costs is, in simplistic terms, from a BPO perspective, is the time required to handle a transaction, right? Now, in terms of the time required to handle a transaction, how that can be optimized, again, going back to what I said, erstwhile model, listen to a few calls, see where the opportunities are from an agent perspective and stuff like that, right? Again, very limited scope of improvement that you can do. Where conversational AI would come into play, and does, I've seen it in the works, right, is you define saying that as a business, X amount of time is what is acceptable from my perspective to say, have the customer on hold, okay? Then you get notification, the agent gets a notification saying that, hello, you've been on hold for a long time, okay? And the same gets triggered to the supervisor, so to speak. So it's real time where somebody can act on it and try and bring that down, okay? In terms of, you telling the customer how long it's going to take. In terms of easiest way is if you look at the handle time, you say, okay, the handle time is supposed to be 1,000 seconds. Okay, you will have a workforce guy sitting looking through the canvas, so to speak. Okay, I've got X number of people, but again, very, very manual, very, very tedious, and does not give you the output that you would really like to make a significant shift in the handle time. Again, this is where, from a conversational AI perspective, you see individuals who are consistently above. Then you try to break it down and you marry it in terms of the technology to identify if you got transcripts and stuff like that, to say that where is the opportunity and what can you do to optimize the handle time.
Yeah, see, handle time was the single most important factor 20 years ago. Now nobody talks about handle time, and if you put the customer on hold in today's world, at least Indian customers, I don't know, I'll take a little gumption from the previous session that somebody said he has two card companies and he will refer the second one. Okay, but the Indian companies are as good as the foreign companies are, and sometimes better. Okay, and I can vouch for that because some of the Indian companies have a policy of no hold. Okay, and I can see one of my friend in blue shirt, and he'll vouch for it. He runs some of those contact centers. I know that they have been doing this phenomenally well, where they have this no hold policy, and where agents are supported by a Gen AI based tool, and where I want to come to you, Gopal, that is Gen AI the real real thing which will take care of all the problems? Is it the panacea, that one thing which will solve everything what we want to solve today? or we are too early to make Gen AI something very big?
Honestly, I know as much as anybody else in the room, but I think
No, today I can quiz
such
you,
kind
so
of,
I want to put you in spot.
So such kind of panacea, I don't think. I mean, it's very early to say that. See, I think it's still to a large extent at an experimental stage. Okay. People say we are trying to move, or we have moved. I think the latest report from HFS or Forrester, I don't remember which one, but they are saying that 30% of the Forrester, 30% of the companies are, moving from experimentation to strategic implementation stage, whatever that means. But anyway, see the way I look at things, and I'm again, going into a few examples here. Personal example. So we are working with a bank on their customer onboarding, where we are trying to use Gen AI at multiple levels of intervention, right? So for example, if you look at the whole process of a commercial customer onboarding in a bank, it's a very time-consuming process. Sometimes takes weeks and months, couple of months it takes. Because the data processing, documentation processing, the business analysis, data analysis, and then the decision making that is required takes a humongous amount of time. Both in terms of KYB, know your bank, know your business, or KYC as it is called. In terms of the credit and assessment part, in terms of the risk assessment part, everything takes a lot of time. And at various of these interventions, we are now introducing Gen AI. So, and again, I'll give some simple examples, not making too complex. Say, you are trying to onboard a company and it has financial statements. Now, normally what would happen, some analyst would sit and he would actually go through the financial statements. He'll make a summary of it. He will put the data in the tables and all that kind of stuff, right? Now, that exactly is done by Gen AI, and we have proved that. We have proved that to the bank that this can be done by Gen AI. We put, in fact, public data available from Pfizer, and we put it, and it did not even hallucinate, because we asked for 5 years, and the report had only data for 3 years. It did not hallucinate. So that was a positive thing, right? Similarly, the certificate of incorporation, that is one of the important processes that is there. That also can be automated.
Yeah, so
those are the kind
so in a
of
real sense, at various inflection point, you want Gen AI to marry your
exactly, and it's all human.
So it's a traditional versus
approach.
modern services, right? So next year I have the job, Divya. So I'm happy that at least we'll still have a traditional moderator, maybe quizzing the Gen AI speakers in that format. Having said that, but I just wanted to conclude by saying this in one sentence, or sum it up, that whether it is artificial intelligence, or whether it is Gen artificial intelligence, or whether it is machine learning, whether it is the computational machine learning and the various algorithms at play, we will constantly evolve. And I had the privilege of meeting Jensen last month when he was here. And one thing which we picked up was that data was oil some time back. Data is now money. Data is going to be everything. And Hasid and all made it very, very worrisome that everybody's data is exposed. So data scrubbing is becoming very easy. So what, from our perspective, whether it's IT operations or the business operations, the data will be the single most significant, currency, or single most important denominator on which all the plays will work. And everywhere, the inflection points have to be defined well, where I want to marry this particular product to this particular solution, whether it is at the client onboarding, client servicing, or client relinquish, because that's also a very important element. Because from a collections perspective, when do I move him bucket to bucket is something, if a system decides rather than a human being, it really makes sense, a lot of sense. Anybody has any questions or anything to trouble any of my fellow panelists today, or me? I'm more than happy. I know Divya is just around the corner and the food is out, so both the things are very important. But we can always connect with all of you at any point of time. Thank you. Thank you to my
Panel so well, and thank you all our panelists. I would like to call upon stage Mr. Nikhil Thapar at Unifor to do the honors. To Mr. Anirban Banerjee.